funds for STEM education and American students. So we're going to be going to Democratic leader Amy Klobuchar coming up. Oh, hi, Amy Klobuchar. Hi, how are you? We're with you right now.
I'm very, very good. How are you?
We're wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. So we want to get to some of the big stuff that has been happening, of course, the last little while. You recently went to Iowa to kind of talk about the Democratic Party's message to voters and the economy. What was the response to a lot of people about what Democrats need to do in terms of the economy?
Well, I think a lot of what I heard was that we can't leave any area behind. For so long, we have just focused too much, in my mind, on certain areas, and if you leave 80% of the country behind, you're going to have a result like we saw last time. In my state, I visit all 87 counties every single year. By the way, that's something Chuck Schumer does as well in New York, just so you know. And one time he won every single county but one, and he said to his chief of staff, "How can that be? I met everyone in that county," and his chief of staff said, "That was the problem, Senator.
Right.
That was the problem." But I have done that in every county. I've gone to places like Insect Inferno, where they have a big truck that says, "We kill bugs with heat." And I've just gone to where they are and talked about the issues that matter. So I think that's a piece of it. I think the second piece of it is having an economic message, really understanding that there's a rural divide. We've got doctors in rural hospitals that read their x-rays at the McDonald's parking lot. We've got tribal lands where kids get Wi-Fi and they look out their window and all the other kids are doing their homework on the lawn because they don't have any other place to do it because they don't have good service that's fast enough. And so these are real things that are happening. Rural poverty rate for kids is actually worse than it is for kids in urban areas. So I think our party has to acknowledge that, and not just acknowledge it, but embrace it and have it be a big part of what we're working on in the years to come.
Well, Senator, there, speaking appropriately to what you think your party needs to further embrace, you said recently, quote, "You don't just go where it's comfortable, you go where it's uncomfortable," speaking in terms of what Democrats need to do to get their message out.
I was actually quoting Chris Christie, believe it or not.
Oh, is that okay? So then let me get your take. Hey, there we go. So let me get your take. Okay, so you say there that's an original from the New Jersey governor, Republican Chris Christie. Do you think the same logic holds true to Democrats, and are they doing enough of that right now, traveling to go to a lot of these counties that President Trump has touted as being the ultimate Trump territory?
Actually, Chris Christie said that years ago in one of his governor wins, and I heard it on TV, and I've been using it and quoting him. But the point is, I think we do need to go to these red counties, and we need to go to places that we haven't gone. For those of us that are running in 2018, like a Heidi Heitkamp, Tammy Baldwin, they know that, and they know that their state is not just the urban area. So I think that's a piece of what we have to do. And then the other is to look at the fact that, not everyone in America wants to go to college, and our party has to firmly say that. We want to make college available for everyone, but my sister, she didn't even graduate from high school. She went on to get her GED. She worked down in a factory down in Iowa. And then she was able to get a 2-year degree, just like my dad did, at a community college, and then went on to get her additional 2 years and became an accountant. But not every path is the same. And when we talk about STEM, yes, we're talking about PhDs and working on, the next iPhone, but it is more than that. It is also blue STEM jobs. We don't have enough welders, we don't have enough plumbers, we don't have enough people that are doing some of these what can be very high-paying jobs, and we need to give dignity to that kind of work and promote it in how we talk and the policies that we put forward.
Yeah, you just mentioned STEM, Senator. I want to bring that up just a minute. You did a bipartisan bill with Dean Heller of Nevada doing the Promoting Women in Entrepreneurship Act of 2017, basically trying to increase women's participation in a lot of science and tech jobs. We talk a lot here at Cheddar about, the wage income inequality and getting more women in executive roles in the tech industry and stuff like that. So is your bill to kind of really help kind of create and bridge this divide and get more women into a lot of these science fields?
Exactly, because people have to understand a lot of these factories aren't dark, dirty, and dangerous, the 3Ds anymore. They're much more high tech. As you know, we're using robots more. We also know we're going to see this increase in technology. We're going to lose some of the jobs we have now. So we need to make sure that we're training people for the jobs that will be available this year, but also 10 years from now. And getting more women and people of color into these tracks is really important, because they've been basically left out of some of these jobs that end up being steady, high-paying jobs. And it's same in the Senate. As you know, we only have 21 women in the Senate. And in the history of the Senate, just to give you a sense of it, there's been 1,921 men, 1,921 men, and only 50 women. So the women in the Senate knows what it's like to make inroads in a new career, and we need to do the same in a lot of these blue-collar jobs.
Yes, Senator, of course, it should be worth mentioning this is a bipartisan bill you introduced several months ago, along with Republican Senator Dean Heller, the great state of Nevada. But I want to ask
and actually, it was one of the first bills that Donald Trump signed into law, and he had a big signing ceremony.
Okay, so this largely gets to my next question here, Senator. Do you think the Trump administration is doing enough to actively study the importance of basically making more women, giving more women the opportunity to get into STEM-based careers and increasing their overall footprint in technology fields?
Well, obviously they're off to a slow start, and so time will tell here. I would think this is something that they could take on. Certainly the issues of apprenticeships and doing more so that high school kids can actually work in some of these jobs and get a sense of them, and their parents can see what it's like to have their kids working in these jobs. That's what they do in other countries like in Germany or Switzerland. And under the Obama administration, we really started taking this on. But if we are always governing from crisis, which this administration seems to be doing by its own actions nearly every single week, it's really hard to govern from opportunity. And I view this as opportunity, just as I view comprehensive immigration reform. 25% of U.S. Nobel laureates were born in other countries. 70 of our Fortune 500 companies are headed up by immigrants. And so we are going to have a talent drain if this rhetoric doesn't stop against immigrants. So it's a combination of educating our own workforce for the jobs that are available now and will be in the next 10, 20 years, and then also comprehensive immigration reform, because that adds new jobs to our economy. And if we shut out the talent, they're all going to go to Canada, and I know because I can see Canada from my porch.
Oh, yes, I love that. That's great.
Not really. My state is next to it.
Right, but I like it. It's great. It's the analogy that still very much works here. I like that. Obviously, the Democratic base is obviously very galvanized during the Trump years that's happening right now. As you're talking to a lot of Democratic voters, they're talking about the economy, they're talking about jobs. What's the one issue you feel like Democrats can all kind of unite behind that will be something, this galvanizing force that's going to get them to the polls in the upcoming midterm elections?
I think economic advancement, moving this ball forward. We've never been a country that's gone backward. And looking at a competitive agenda for this country. We're a country that should be thinking, inventing, exporting to the world, working with other countries across the world to increase jobs where we are right now. And I think that's something that got lost in a lot of what we were talking about. And to me, that means having the workforce that's trained, incentives to keep jobs in America, infrastructure that works, and then cutting costs down for things like pharma prices, prescription drug prices. You've got a situation now where the top 10 selling drugs, 4 of them have gone up over 100% in just the last few years. And that's why I'm doing the bill with McCain to bring less expensive drugs from Canada. Grassley and I are trying to stop the pay for delay where pharma pays off generics to keep their drugs off the market, and why we should get rid of the law that says you can't negotiate under Medicare for the seniors. They have a pretty big bargaining power, as you know, in our country. And if we are just giving companies a monopoly, they're going to go for it. And I think we need more competition in this market.
Senator Klobuchar, your colleague in the Senate from Minnesota, Al Franken, has a very funny book out that he's promoting right now. He said a very wonderful thing about you the other day in an interview. He said, in regards to you potentially running for 2020, he says, I think we'll have a great big field, Democrats, and I think Amy would be great. I think she'd be terrific. Could you give us any insight if you are going to run in 2020, and if not, would you like to see a lot more women running in 2020 as well?
Well, I think we need a lot of competition, and I am really focused right now on running for the U.S. Senate and the work that needs to be done here. We're an emergency break in the Senate, but we're also a place of compromise. But I will tell you one thing about Al's book, and that is that I did give him a title that he rejected, and
What was
his
it?
book is called, well, his book is called The Giant of the Senate. And I am his senior senator, and he
Right.
is my junior senator.
Right.
So I suggested the junior giant of the Senate. But that was
nice.
rejected.
Oh,
That was rejected.
we like yours a lot better.
know.
I'm curious. He says Ted Cruz is the guy that microwaves fish in the cafeteria. Is that true?
Okay, yeah, that was lovely. Actually, the story that he tells about the three of us, Cruz and Al and myself, is when I approach Cruz, which I do all the time when I do comedy dinners, and I said to him, oh, hey, I'm going to use this joke. And the joke I was using was that at the time we had the Carnival cruises with all the sewer problems on them, and I was going to say, and I did at the Gridiron, you know, in this town, when we hear about a bad cruise, we don't know if it's Carnival or Ted. Okay, it's a simple little joke.
Right.
So Ted listens to it for a while, then he says, yeah, I guess okay. We kind of discuss some language with it, and then he goes, I'm fine. And then Al comes up, and Al listens to the joke, and without missing a beat, he says, well, I got a better joke for you. And it's this. In this town, when we hear about a cruise that's full of S, H,
Yes.
and I won't finish it, we don't know if it's Carnival or Ted. So there you go.
Ah, yes, yes.
Yeah, but what joke do you think I went with? I went with my joke.
Of course you
you
should
did, and
have.
rightfully so, Senator. All right,
I
well,
know
listen.
his joke was better, but I didn't go for it.
Well, Senator, I'm going to offer it out there. If you ever do decide to run for president in 2020, I hope you'll consider coming on Cheddar and making the announcement here. We're very excited you took the time today to join us today,
everyone
Senator.
does. All
Thank
right,
you very
thank
much,
you guys.
Senator. I really
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Amy Klobuchar,
Okay,
the great
bye.
state of
Thank
Minnesota.
you.
Join us today on Cheddar.
All right, guys, coming up in between bells.